So at some point, we catechists are going to encounter learners sitting in front of us, and it's going to be our job, our task, to engage them. As I mentioned before, not to entertain them, but to engage them, and engage them with the invitation to discipleship. So this third dimension of doing is focused on the notion of acquiring some basic skills and developing qualities to make our transmission of the gospel more effective. So let's jump right into this notion. We're going to begin with an exercise called the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Catechists. I'm going to be drawing from my book, The Catechist Toolbox. And of course, I'm shamelessly borrowing from the famous Stephen Covey book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So for starters, what I want you to do is I want you to think back to your own schooling experience and recall some of the best teachers that you ever had. So for this activity, I made a handout available, and on that handout, I ask you to think about the best, most effective teacher that you can recall, and to identify what made him or her so effective. And what I'd like you to do right now is, as you're thinking of that teacher who was the best teacher you ever had, I'd like you to type in one word in the Q&A panel that captures why this teacher was so effective. One skill, one quality that made him or her stand head and shoulders over all the other teachers. And while we're waiting, while you're starting to type in those qualities and skills that your best teachers had, I've asked Nick to share his experience of the best teacher that he ever had and what made this person so effective. So, Nick, are we going back to college, high school, or grade school? Where are we going?
We're going all the way back to grade school. Joe, when you asked me this question, it didn't take long to come up with an answer. Mrs. Brenneman, my 6th grade teacher, was my favorite teacher, and my real introduction to her actually started in 5th grade. We had a program called Young Authors where you were, every year from 5th grade on up, you wrote a little book and you illustrated it yourself, and the teachers judged them, and when they picked out the best ones, those folks were able to actually meet an author that they brought in to give a presentation to the whole school, but then the folks who kind of won the contest got a little more time with the author. And I remember Mrs. Brenneman coming in and introducing the idea, and she was wearing these earrings, and they were small little glass balls, and they were filled with a pink liquid that she told us was magic and could turn her into anyone in the world like Paula Abdul, and she was not young at the time, but she was dancing around the room just completely invested in it, and that was really the thing. She did everything with passion, and she was a lector at the church, and no one else held the congregation's attention. Just the passion that she even just read with, it was just evident there as well that she was born to teach, and just her enthusiasm and passion were just absolutely contagious.
No surprise then that your first career was to try teaching. The passion that she had really inspired you. Thanks, Nick. That's a great story. Here's to all those teachers out there who inspired us. So you folks have been typing in some of the qualities and skills that they had, and we got a nice list there while Nick was telling us his story. So let's turn it back to Nick, and he'll read off some of the qualities and skills that you've been recalling from some of your best teachers. So, Nick?
We've got enthusiasm is a big one here, passion, storytelling, excitement, supportive, hands-on, caring, loving. Someone who read to us is a very actually popular answer. Someone who is genuinely interested, creative, theatrical, someone who cared about individuals, someone who took an individual interest in students, someone who is personable, someone who tried to make every day fun, someone who was patient, someone who had high expectations, someone who had humor, a positive outlook, someone who knew their students' interests, knew what they were interested in. A lot of great answers. Someone who was trustworthy, compassionate. Again, Joe, we probably have close to 100 answers just on this question again.
Great, Nick. Thank you, and thank you to all of you for sending those in. Some great teachers that I'm sure you're remembering. And now that you're all thinking about your favorite teacher and what made them so effective, what I want to point out is that While some people are simply born teachers, many of the skills that effective teachers rely on can really be learned. And I'd like to look at 7 of them that I'm drawing from my book, A Well-Built Faith. The first one, the first skill or quality to begin with, is a passion for your own growth, your own ongoing formation. You know, it never fails that the people who show up at workshops seem to be the people who have been catechists for the longest. They just have such a passion for ongoing learning. So I encourage you to build this attitude, to adopt an attitude that says, you know, I'm a catechist and I'm under construction, and I'm not going to be completed until the day I stand before Christ at the final judgment. That is a passion for ongoing formation. And the second habit of highly effective catechists is planning and preparation. You know, I learned early on in my teaching career that planning and preparation really make up about 70% of an effective lesson, an effective teaching experience. And even after 30 years of teaching, I still put a lot of time into preparing my lessons. And the more you plan and prepare, the more relaxed and spontaneous you're going to be when you're actually teaching. The third habit of highly effective catechists is creating a prayerful environment. The General Directory for Catechesis tells us that the most effective catechesis takes place within a climate of prayer. So be sure to take advantage of arranging your space in such a way as to make it a prayerful environment. The fourth habit is using a variety of techniques and activities and approaches. Young people really need variety, and we simply can't rely solely on reading from a book. The book is our anchor, but it's our job to make the words on those pages really come alive. And I'm going to tell you about some recorded webinars that I have on my blog that you're going to be able to look to find some ideas and suggestions for how to do that. A fifth habit is maintaining discipline. And don't be afraid of this responsibility. You have authority. You're teaching in the name of the church, and so don't hesitate to appropriately correct bad behavior and to reinforce good behavior. My book, The Catechist Toolbox, has a wonderful expanded section in there about dealing with discipline, as well as one of my webinars that I'll be telling you about, the recorded webinar. A sixth habit is leading reflective prayer. We have to be sure that we're not just teaching a subject. We need to facilitate an encounter with Jesus. And in my book, Beyond the Catechist Toolbox, I demonstrate how to lead guided reflections. And I also have a recorded webinar about that I'll tell you about in a moment. And finally, the seventh habit is polishing your technique. And that means referring to looking at all of the things that you can improve on, your voice, your posture, your body language, your eye contact. It's good to get some feedback, whether another catechist or your DRE gives you feedback on your presence, or videotape or record yourself and watch or listen and learn how you can improve your presence and make it a more positive thing. So let's ask a quick poll question here, Nick. We're going to ask folks which of these 7 habits or skills you would most like to grow on in this coming year. So Nick, walk us through this poll question.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, the poll question box is open on your screen. This time the question is, which of these 7 habits or skills do you most need to grow in this year? Please select A if you need to grow in your passion for your own ongoing formation. B if you need to work on planning and preparation. C if your focus will be on creating a prayerful environment. D if you need to work at using a variety of engaging activities. E if maintaining discipline will be your focus this year. F if you want to work on leading reflective prayer. The final possibility is G, that is working on your positive presence or your teaching with authority.
All right, good. So as you are taking time to type in your response and thinking about how you want to grow this year, I just want to remind you that you can type in a question as well in the Q&A panel. We're going to have a little time at the end to answer questions. But, you know, even if I don't get to them in the webinar, I deal with them on my blog. That's the nice thing about having a blog, is that these questions do not go unanswered. So we have our poll coming in here, and the results are just a second away, and we're told they're ready. So, Nick, tell us what folks are hoping to improve on this year.
All right. It looks like our number one answer was using a variety of engaging activities, followed by leading reflective prayer, planning and preparation, creating a prayerful environment, then maintaining discipline, and then it looks like on to a passion for ongoing formation and the positive presence. Really, we had a pretty good scattering. We just had really the first two answers were out in front. The rest were all pretty close.
All right. Well, thank you, Nick. And since people are very interested in learning a variety of activities, what a coincidence that the next slide I have is to tell you about my webinars in which you can learn about lots of different ways, activities for the age group that you teach. When you visit my blog, www.catechistjourney.com, look at the tabs at the very top of the home page. And the last tab in that top black bar is for webinars. And when you click on that, you'll be taken to a page that lists all of my webinars that are archived there. And I want to draw your attention in particular to webinars that are called Getting Started as a Catechist. It's a series of webinars about different approaches and a variety of teaching techniques. I also have a webinar on leading prayer as a catechist that will teach you how to lead young people through guided reflections. And also the Getting Started as a Catechist webinars and some of my other webinars that are recorded there deal with handling discipline. So we have one more doing exercise to go through as we wind into our last few minutes together. I call this exercise entering through their door but leaving through your door. Now, before you give credit to me for coming up with such a clever title for this activity, the credit has to go to St. Ignatius of Loyola, who taught his followers that if you really want to persuade someone to your way of thinking, the best way was to enter through their door, meaning to engage them where they're at and connect with their lives, but be sure to leave through your door. So that's what we're going to take a look at now in this activity. What this means for us as catechists is that we need to enter into the world of those we teach and to connect the message of the gospel with real life experiences. So to get us thinking in that direction, we're going to do a little brainstorming about what's hot for various age groups. So as you know, fads come and go for people of all ages, and we can often enter into the world of those we teach by tapping into some of these realities.